This is Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel.
Welcome back to Inside the Wolf's Den with your hosts, Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel. Today we have a guest with us, Josh Deshong. How are you, Josh?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Super excited for you to be on the show today. So just a quick bio on Josh. So Josh is a highly accomplished and recognized individual in the field of real estate. Born and raised in Dallas, Texas, Josh developed a passion for the industry at an early age and has since become one of the most prominent figures in the Texas real estate market. Josh Deshong founded Myers Home Buyers and also a platform called Trelly to help real estate investors and wholesalers streamline their business. As a real estate investor who buys hundreds of houses each year, he knew there was a need for this. And today he has made the platform and the success of its users his personal mission. With a comprehensive understanding of the local market and unwavering commitment to excellence, Josh has established himself as a trusted real estate professional. He has built a reputation for his exceptional negotiating skills, market knowledge, and unparalleled dedication to client satisfaction. Again, thank you for joining us today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in the field of real estate?
Yeah. So, so it's a little bit of a story, but I was 17. Yeah, I was 17 years old. I was helping my father. My father owned a commercial furniture company, and I was reading a Dallas Business Journal looking for people to call on and to sell desks. And I read an article about how great residential real estate was. And this would have been about 2005. So impeccable timing. I read this article and it convinced me. I was like, this is what I want to do. This is where I'm going to get started. So I begged my mother to front me the capital to go get my real estate license. And then I joined Keller Williams and started like so many others have, just really working with traditional buyers and sellers as an agent. Fast forward a couple of years, I had a mentor that said, Josh, you need to acquire assets. You either need to build a product or you need to have assets. Services is a really tough business to scale. And, that would have been 2012. And I bought my first investment property. And mind you, I had been in real estate now from this point from 2006 to 2012. So I thought, surely I was going to go broke on this deal. I was a little biased, to say the least. And if I told you the economics, you'd say, why did you ever think you were going to go broke? But I had just seen so many people lose in real estate that I just couldn't fathom not. And so, but after I did that first transaction, I was hooked, and it all became about buying more and more deals,
Awesome. That's amazing. I didn't realize you started at 17. That's you got us beat. We started at 19 and we thought we were the oddballs out. That's great.
Yeah. Well, I had to wait until my 18th birthday to take my real estate license exam. So it wasn't until then I could even submit to TREC.
Oh my gosh.
So over that time period, what have you done to separate yourself from, and you can relate it to either, in the investment world or the wholesale world or in the brokerage side, but what do you do? Because Dallas is, probably one of the most competitive markets out there, I'm sure. But, what have you done to separate yourself from others?
I think that the answer changes depending on which hat I'm wearing, right? If I'm wearing my real estate agent hat, when I got into it, and you guys know this, when I got into it, I was so young that I don't think a lot of people took me seriously. And I don't know if y'all experienced the same thing, but it was very much, I was asking people to trust me with their largest asset, yet I didn't have a large asset. So it was a weird negotiation. I had to become better. I had to actually be smarter than everyone else. And that forced me to look at problems differently. It forced me to look for business where others weren't looking. At one point, I went after expired and canceled listings because I didn't have a network of people friends and family that were buying and selling houses every so many years.
Right.
I just didn't have a network at all. All my friends were in college.
Right.
And you know, I had to really understand real estate. And so as I was going after expired listings, I was able to sit down with people and break down why their homes didn't sell in a very different way than just saying price is why your home didn't sell. I could actually tie the logic to the price. And I think that really helped me stand out. Later, as I got into investing, what all of that experience talking to expired listings did was it gave me a very good understanding of risk.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So as a real estate agent, it's not uncommon for you to go and meet with an expired listing that failed to sell, and say it backs up to a major road, and also it's a corner lot on the feeder road that goes into the subdivision, yet it also backs to a major, right? And I can't tell you how many sellers would tell me, I got such a great deal on this house from the builder, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, well, I can tell you why, but you didn't. And so as a real estate investor, I used all of that knowledge to really understand and manage risk as we started scaling our business.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. The, you know, you've been successful in multiple, I'm always curious, like how have you gone about, because it's sometimes a struggle for us, but how have you gone about balancing, you know, the brokerage side and, you know, running a pretty successful wholesaling company? And then also, I know you've now, you know, matured into a technology company as well, managing all three of those at the same time and having them all scale and grow. It's not easy. So I'm curious to see how you've done it over time.
Yeah. This is a difficult question. And I've been asked this question a couple times because, you know, to me, being an agent was my college. Building my real estate team, that was my college degree. And what I did was I didn't, when I got into real estate initially, and when I became a real estate agent, I didn't plan on that being my career. I planned on that being my education. And that part of it was very, very much intentional. What came next maybe was not. And as opportunities started to present themselves, as I became an expert in my field, different opportunities started coming up. People started explaining and teaching me concepts. And then it was, okay, how do I make this manageable enough to where I can shift focus? And I've been very fortunate to have just be surrounded by awesome people that I've been able to confidently, keyword confidently hand off really important things. But whenever I've looked at a new opportunity or that next phase in my journey, I've quantified, or I tried to quantify, and I haven't always been right, but I've tried to quantify what was I shifting from versus the value of what I'm shifting to. So, for example, when I went from our residential real estate team was one of the best in the country, ranked in the top 50 in the Wall Street Journal. And it was a great business, but it at its peak, it was a heavy business. It had a lot of moving pieces into it. And so as I shifted over to investing and then later wholesaling and technology, I slowly reduced complexity in the other businesses. And that made it manageable. That made it, maybe it wasn't as profitable, but maybe I could sacrifice 20% of profit in one business to make it more plug and play. And as long as I was getting a higher return on that loss in the next opportunity, it made it it made it doable.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. You know, starting so young at 17, I mean, like you mentioned, people had to take you serious. It was hard for people probably to take you serious. Same thing with us, right? So what were maybe some of the challenges? You named some of them, but how did you overcome, those challenges at an early age?
Yeah, I have a story. It's pretty funny. I got really good at cold calling expired listings. And so I remember I cold called a lady and had a conversation with her for probably an hour and 10 minutes about her house and why she thought it didn't sell and all that stuff. And I show up at her house. Again, I'm 18 years old at this point, and I've got a Men's Warehouse $225 suit on, and I'm nervous. This is probably my fourth appointment to actually go on. And I'll never forget this. Probably one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. I go up to her door and she's like, "Oh, come on in." And she says a name like Steve will be out in a second. And I'm thinking it's her husband. And she's like, "You can just hang out on the couch." And she's like, "Do you want water or anything?" I'm like, "No, I'm okay. Thanks. Whatever," which you should always accept if someone offers you something. I'll learn that later. And next thing I know, her son comes out, and I guess he was in the shower or something. And I hear him go, "Mom, I don't know who that is." And she goes, "What? What do you mean?" And she comes over and she goes, "I'm so sorry. Who are you?" And I was like, "I'm the real estate agent you spoke with yesterday. Blah, blah, blah." So needless to say, I didn't get that listing. But yeah, I had to make it. It was all about it's a contact sport. So I had to have more contacts than other people. I had to have people would often comment on my age. And so I had different ways of overcoming rebuttals, I guess. So somebody would be like, "How old are you?" And I'd be like, "Oh man, today I feel like I'm 60. How old are you?" That would just immediately turn it around on them. Right. And I think the thing is whenever you're dealing with a customer and they're nervous for whatever reason, I think it's all a matter of just being confident and exuding as much confidence as you possibly can. And I think that goes in all things, right? When we're hiring somebody, I try to make sure we are as confident in them as they are us. And I want that to shine through,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great story. It reminds you of us knocking on doors.
Yeah. We didn't cold call. We knocked on doors for 12 years, but yeah, we have tons of stories like that. Yeah. But that would, I never got that one, but that would be, I don't know how I'd recover from that one. No, I'm not your son's friend, but but I'm here to sell your house. But yeah, that's cool. Do you have any other, because when you were talking earlier about managing multiple companies and businesses, and I really appreciate you talking about the complexity and lowering the complexity. I never really thought of it like that, but we've done that, and we kind of, I think we failed for one of our first times. Not failed like the business didn't fail, but like as far as we didn't get a higher return on that, I guess, the time and money that we put into that next venture. At least as of to date, it has not returned anything back. It just keeps costing money. But so it's been a learning lesson for us because, for a long time, everything we touched, it seemed to always return a bigger return. So I'm just curious, have you struggled with anything like that, or had any stories where it's like, hey, we just, didn't hit it on this one, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I've had countless, to be just very, very honest. Yeah. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I think that's inevitable, right? Like that's part of growing, is taking risk and manageable risk, right? The loss isn't going to wipe us out. But I look at it this way. Okay, I made this decision, and whether I'm sticking with something or I've decided to cut ties or cut an initiative or whatever the case may be, I try to ask myself, okay, what did I actually learn? Like, what did I really learn? And that's a harder question to answer once you've made you've done things in a way that maybe you got an outcome you didn't anticipate. So I asked myself, what did I actually learn here? And where else in the existing organization or the business can I use that lesson to get more of a return? Right. So thinking about like, our real estate team no longer works with traditional clients. We no longer help people buy and sell houses. We are focused exclusively on institutional representation. And if I run an initiative and try to do something in our investment business, and let's say that goes south or it doesn't work very well, that may be something that that I can take that lesson and translate it over to the real estate team. And then maybe that's who ends up getting more of the return out of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A little philosophical, but without going into the exact specifics. But it's, you can use the lessons learned in more places than just that whatever initiative it is that you're trying to do that may or may not be working.
Yeah. No, I got it. That makes perfect sense, and appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
What you're tied to a lot of things, network with a lot of people. It can be just Texas specific, or it could be, kind of nationalized. But what, kind of looking ahead, what are some big opportunities and challenges that you see facing the real estate market? And it's been a lot over the last, I would say 3 years, because I don't think nobody anticipated what was going to happen after COVID, and then now with interest rates and all that. But kind of it's been a ride. But I mean, what are you seeing moving forward?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest challenges lie around commercial real estate, commercial debt, multifamily. The multifamily syndications are a major risk. You have a lot of times unsophisticated investors giving their money to another slightly more sophisticated investor. They're jumping into investments, but there's a reason that a legitimate fund didn't want that investment to begin with, typically, and it's because they have more. They're usually more savvy when it comes to underwriting a deal. So I'm very worried about the multifamily. The multifamily market, specifically on the C class that's getting leased as B and A. I think you've seen it in your market. I've seen it in mine. I use this story to kind of relate this to the past, but the reason the housing market crash in 2008 was so bad was not purely because we sold loans to people who shouldn't have gotten those loans. That's kind of the soundbite I think that a lot of people repeat, run with. It was that, but it was the bonds. So the way the mortgage-backed security works is it has a rating, a credit rating, right? And when we started opening up lending programs like Nehemiah down payment assistance, we did not change the way the underlying bond was scored. So we took those mortgages and we threw them into the corresponding A, AAA, AA, B, triple B rated bond. And what happened was, by being mispriced, it prevented banks and institutions from properly managing the risk associated with those bonds. So a default is normal. A default is part of the process. You're going to lose some. But once that bond's default rate exceeded a certain amount, the entire bond itself failed. Then you compound that with a liquidity crunch and banks needing capital. They didn't have any choice but to foreclose on the properties, right? So take that. That's what happened. Well, what we did with multifamily, and again, I own multifamily, so like it's not something I'm foreign to. But what we did with multifamily is we took a lot of those tenants, a lot of those, I would call them below ideal standard tenants. We took C class properties. We threw some lipstick on it. We put some LEDs out, made it a little brighter. We put some paint out. We changed a couple of things, and we then filled it up with those tenants. And then those properties are out trading at a premium, trading based on the return, the net return, as if it's a muni bond, and it's just not. And so that's a risk or a challenge that I see on the horizon that I hope works itself out, and it probably will. That's the thing about it is, in the history of the United States, we've done an incredible job of engineering things to a later date. So
kicking the can down.
Yeah, just kicking that can right down the road. So, I think it probably will end up being fine, but with the banking crisis, banks needing liquidity, and default rates starting to increase and DSCR starting to fall, that's a real risk that I think should be top of mind in every investor. Because let's say all these properties go into foreclosure, what happens? Well, it could push rents down, right? Because you're going to want to get a higher occupancy, and the banks will want to get a higher occupancy in the properties that they're trying to resell. So they're going to do whatever they can to get them leased to grade A tenants. It starts that cycle all over again.
Right.
But I think that all in of itself yields to opportunities. There are syndications that are more they're trying to liquidate property, and they're more aggressive than they were previously.
Yeah.
They see that the writing's on the wall, and it's a opportune time to get an investor to come in and really change up the tenant makeup of those properties.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. It was good stuff right there. Because we have several multifamily owners right now that see the writing on the wall and they want to get out now, right? So what advice would you give those investors?
Look at the investment for what it is, and make sure that it's not a fear-based decision. Good point. Okay, so I just read last week in The Real Deal about properties that are getting foreclosed on, or maybe getting foreclosed on, that are in syndications. Well, somebody that comes in and buys it will absolutely turn it around. It's just going to require hard decisions, and it's going to require a little more upfront work. Those properties, if it's possible, those properties are absolutely salvageable in many cases. If you have bad tenants, if you have bad debt structures, you can go to foreign markets to look at building more creative or establishing more creative financing terms. And so I think it's just think outside the box, right. Look at what it actually is, and make sure it's not a fear-based decision.
Yeah.
That's good.
Love it.
Yeah. So we took over a bunch of, we managed, for a group that, I don't know what, you were talking about smart people, they're very smart people, based upon their profession, but it's like, how did they get suckered into this? What were they thinking? Like, I just have no clue, like how they were sold that. But, anyways, but it's, we're working to turn it around and doing the best we can with it. But that trickles down. We've seen it. Yeah. Because we've been in this for 23 years, 24 years. And we've seen that where the A class, eventually the A class will drop their prices, right? And all of a sudden it goes down further and further to where they're C's. Now, you can't, they're C-class properties for a reason, and they're getting those tenants, and it all trades down and puts a crunch on everybody. But,
I saw it. So I went to a course on mobile home parks, probably 10 years ago. And at that time, mobile home parks were trading at a high priced was like an 18 cap. The average was probably like a 21 cap or something. Yeah. And I mean, it was it was a hell of an opportunity. And now I see those things trading like it's a B-class apartment, and it just doesn't map out, right? So,
have you managed that type of, it's not
we've jumped in and out, but I'm not ready to put a pinky ring on. So that's what I say.
We say that all the time. What were we thinking? I'm joking.
But what trends are you seeing, or technology? You can talk about Trelly and that as well in the real estate space. What any new or exciting? I know AI is I think going to play a big role, but what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I think there's this new concept of sell and stay, where homeowners are staying in their homes. So they'll sell to a real estate investor. The real estate investor will get a 2 or 3 year lease with that homeowner, and the homeowner will stay. I think there are so many of those scenarios where I just did one. An opportunity came up. We've been getting the question for a long time, like, why don't y'all buy it from me and just rent it back to me? Because for whatever reason, they don't qualify for a second lien or a HELOC, but they may need cash right now. And that's been something that has been on my mind for some time. I know some of the people that are going after that business as a practice, and I think it's brilliant. I think it makes total sense. What I'm also hearing is that these former owner now turned tenants are doing a better job maintaining the properties, because it's like, the home they raised their kids in, or they have a bigger connection to that home than, say, just a fresh tenant. I also have been seeing so much, and I know you guys have as well, on sub 2. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. I think sub 2 is the big craze. Although I am not of the belief that it is, I think that the jury is very much still out on the legalities of sub 2, and most when discussing, traditional Fannie Mae 30-year fixed rate debt. I think it's going to be a controversial thing that's going to come up in the next couple of years. But if banks don't have liquidity problems, then there's no reason to call notes due, as long as a court doesn't come out and say that those sales aren't valid. What are y'all's thoughts on that? I would love to
yeah. So I mean, we did it. That's all we did for 12 years. It was a different time, and social media wasn't out then, and so like it is today. So it's turning into the new, from multifamily now. It's subject sub 2 is really because of interest rate. It makes sense because there are a lot of
low interest rates
and everything out there. So I mean, I've done 3 or 4.
And actually, I love your idea of leasing back to the homeowners, because we tried that on one of our rentals as well. It hasn't worked out yet, but I love the idea, and I think now that you said it, I'm like, man, I think we need to do more of that.
Yeah, but to answer your question, I think it's a great opportunity for the established, experienced investor. I don't like the idea of big educators in the space teaching it to just random people. So to give a good example, I did 4 or 5 this year. One of them got called due because it was a local community bank, small bank. Part of it was the homeowner was difficult, or changed his mind after we closed and everything, and closed with the title company. Everything was straight up front. He knew what he was getting into, but still caused problems. So I think you're going to have to be able to, as an investor, you're going to be able to step in and pay it off if you have, and so I think there's a lot of people out there that may not have the resources to be able to do that, which is going to cause, if you let that thing go into foreclosure and then there's a possibility you're going to get sued, and you might not be shown in a good light, because they're going to say you took advantage of somebody, especially in today's world. So I just think that, legal wise, I think there's some things to watch. I don't, on the bigger banks, I don't think they're going to, like you said, I don't think there's going to be much change, but I think there'll probably be more and more, as the more transactions occur and happen, there's probably going to be some, government intervention and regulating that a little bit. But, you know,
Yeah.
and if it gets to like the 80s, you know, we'll see maybe banks opening up, you know, the assumption loans again and that, but I don't think we're there. But there's not enough motivation yet. Also, we're not seeing so when we did a ton of subject to, people were highly motivated, you know, and it was a different time, and foreclosures were much higher than they are today. So a lot of the subject twos we did back, you know, for 12 years it was all pre-foreclosure.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
right now they can just put their properties on the market and sell them.
But so did that answer your question, or it did?
Yeah. I think you make a really good call out, actually, and that's experienced investors, right? So I operate through a team. So I have acquisitions associates that are out meeting with homeowners. And the thing is if it was me, because I have the experience and I know what needs to happen, I know how to prepare the documents, and I know how to manage the risk in such a way that makes it viable. That's one thing. But is it something that I can teach easily? And to your point, these people are teaching them on the internet how to do a sub two, and that's
a problem.
Maybe they're teaching. I don't know the content, haven't taken any of the courses, but you know, you have to teach a lot to actually do that business. Probably more so than if you're flipping or becoming a rental investor. Like, it's a lot more. There's a lot more to it.
Correct. Yeah. And then they're trying to do it nationwide. Mm-hmm. Some of these people, it's like, you don't know all the specifics for each state. I don't know. But hey, wholesaling, they figured it out wholesaling. So maybe I'm totally wrong, but I just think it's a little different because what will happen is they'll get in trouble, and then somebody's going to get foreclosed on when they, you know, that wasn't part of the agreement that you were going to, you know, let my loan go into default, you know, and that's going to open up. Yeah. And they're going to be related to some government official that's, you know, so it's
but creative real estate is coming back though. So.
It is a huge opportunity.
Absolutely.
I think. And God, well, the big thing for me is like, we've been trying to do a lot more of them, because I'm like, the ones we did do this year is like, they were all like 2.9 to 3.4, I think. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it was a no brainer. But anyway, so I want to ask you, because I know this, and I think I know the answer to what you're going to say, but, you know, being that you are, one of your companies is a tech company, what's your opinion on like high touch versus high tech, you know? And I think people are still trying to somewhat figure that out between, you know, hey, it's all automated, you know.
There's a balance, I think, but I'll let Josh.
You know, go ahead.
I think you're right, Joni. Like, it's you know, as I've gotten older, I've appreciated high touch more than I think I did in my younger years. My younger years, I thought, you know, it's actually ironic. I used to think AI was going to be here any minute, and it was going to eliminate the need for interaction. But now that AI is here to an extent, I think that the interaction is more necessary. Maybe that's because, you know, we went so long with reduced interaction between each other.
Yep. Yeah.
But I really think that I value the people being involved more now than probably ever before in my career. Mm-hmm. But I don't believe that technology will ever truly replace the operators or the participants in a transaction. Mm-hmm. I even today believe more in the real estate agent than I ever have, like ever before. When I was working, you know, exclusively with just traditional buyers and sellers and very little investment, I valued what I did less then than I do today. And I don't know. I'm seeing it from a very different perspective. I think what you do get from technology is you have an elimination of people who are not serious, not capable, or don't really want to achieve things. the former CEO of Zillow, Spencer Raskoff, one time said something, and this actually stuck with me. He said, in the future, and this was probably 10 years ago, he said, in the future, you will see mega teams. So real estate teams that span multiple states, multiple MSAs. Mm-hmm. And that has stuck with me ever since I heard him say that. And today, that's what we see. Today, major real estate agents are Ben Kinney, Adam Hergenrother, Gary Keller is building a national team with Adam Hergenrother. Mm-hmm. These are major real estate agents, right, and they're building national teams. And so I think that what you're going to see is you're going to see probably a 50 to 70% reduction in the amount of real estate agents over the next 10 years, but the volume is still going to go through those real estate agents. Mm-hmm. They're just scratching the consumer's itch in a better way.
Yeah. Don't you think most businesses are headed that way though? Like I think a lot of the smaller people are being eliminated. It's going to the bigger teams, bigger, not necessarily businesses that, I don't know, I guess, it consolidated, is that the right word? I guess.
Yeah. I think it is. It's a consolidation to the people who are the best, and that's in all industries. So it's like you have this interesting dynamic where, you're going to consolidate the players, and then all the people who aren't the best or who don't take it as seriously, they're going to work 3 jobs and work for 3 of those different players doing 3 different functions. Mm-hmm. It's like you're going to have this, the Uber economy, so to speak. And then you're going to have, the winner, the winners of these various businesses. You're going to have less people doing an okay job and less businesses doing an okay job.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've really seen it in the property management space the last it's just consolidated.
It's been very interesting to watch your industry from afar.
Yeah.
They still do. It's been interesting. They don't do a great job at it, but they'll figure it out eventually. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Josh, I kind of wanted to for you to talk a little bit about your platform, Trelly, so our listeners can understand what that is and how you're helping real estate investors streamline their business.
Yeah, so might help to, I'll add a little context. I started fixing and flipping houses in 2012, got to where I was doing over 100 fix and flips annually, and then quickly had to start wholesaling excess deal flow because we got so good at identifying deals, we started wholesaling. And so call it from 2014, 15-ish to 2017, we were doing fix and flip, we were doing wholesale. And then in 2017, I decided I did not want to invest any more directly into fix and flips. I wanted to purely focus on this wholesale business because we weren't great at renovation. I was terrible at managing the crews. I was terrible at managing the contractors, and we had foremen that were on staff that, full benefits, and then all of a sudden wouldn't show up to work with them. And I still have yet to hear from them. And so we weren't good at that, but we were good at finding deals. So we pivoted and went the opposite way. I think a lot of people go from wholesaling to flipping. We went from flipping to wholesaling. And so 2017, we started a company called Myers Home Buyers that finds, buys, and then resells investment properties for a small markup in between what the end investor is paying us for. So what I realized, though, was that your smartest, most sophisticated investors, from an investor standpoint, not a wholesaler, they were buying from wholesalers and auctions. And their whole thing was, let's go for speed, wholesale, auction, and real estate agents. And their thing was, let's go for speed. Let's not worry about how much the middleman's making, because that's a common objection is like, how much are you making on this deal from an investor to a wholesaler? And really, they just started focusing on the return. How much was the return? And I started realizing that the commercial real estate space has been formulated in the same way that the residential real estate space is starting to evolve into, right? Commercial real estate brokers talk about IRR, cap rates. They talk about depreciation timelines, and, you know, things that residential real estate agents do not. What I also realized was there was no place for people to play. The MLS is not a great, it's not a great resource for investors, wholesalers, middlemen. It's very antiquated. It's built for a traditional real estate agent and traditional home buyer.
Correct.
And so we've seen this massive hole in the market. We decided to build a marketplace to sell our properties and everyone else's properties. And, you know, one of my bigger mistakes is not really thinking through monetization. I did the Field of Dreams play a little bit more. I was like, if I build it, they will come. And so far that's worked out, right? But we built a marketplace. Wholesalers can list and post properties on there. They can sponsor it if they want, but there's no fee. We're not charging anybody anything. And so our Trelly platform is where a lot of investors in the Dallas and Houston market are going to interact with wholesalers, talk about their deals, and bid directly on platform. What it's also done is it's giving wholesalers the ability to create a real business and not just a hustle. Right. In Trelly, you can create an organization. You can have multiple associates posting and interacting with different users, posting properties available for sale. You can run a buy it now, or you can run we call it highest and best, but it's effectively an auction, selling off your property. And the investor who has the lowest yield requirement, the lowest return requirement, they're going to win the auction, and everybody wins. What that also does is it gives the wholesaler the ability to pay as much as possible to the homeowner. Because now, instead of reaching out to 20,000, or instead of reaching out to 1,000 or 2,000 people, I'm reaching 20,000 engaged people. I'm reaching 20,000 people for that deal. And so I can now pay more to the homeowner. And the proposition made a ton of sense for everybody involved.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Love it. We've seen the platform and it's
used it. Yeah, we've used it in the past, and it's a great place to post, especially if you're in the you just got a lot more activity, right, in the Dallas and Houston markets. But yeah.
Dallas, Houston, you know, what's interesting is San Antonio and Austin have started growing on their own. So nice. Like, we never launched those markets, but we have inventory now in those markets. So it's been great.
Very cool.
So what's your next? What's Josh coming up with, or what is he going to do over the next 5 to 10 years?
This is an interesting question. My thing is all about scale. I love the idea of people building a business in real estate. I love what it's done for me and my family. When I got started, I was young, but I was also broke. And it has given me opportunities that I never thought I had access to. And so I'm passionate about seeing people win in this business the right way. I don't want to sell a course telling someone they can get rich quick. I'm all for teaching people and helping people, but I am not going to give false promises. The more that we can build our Myers brand, and the more we can build and enable the Trelly platform to host those businesses, the happier I am. Yeah. So that is my 5 and 10 year focus.
Awesome. Love it. Awesome. One final question.
Sure.
If you can go back in your early 20s, I'm only asking this because you started off pretty young. What advice would you give yourself? A lot of young listeners.
Mark Twain, I think Mark Twain said this, don't quote me on that, but Mark Twain said, I didn't have time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one. So much of our decision making and our visions are not clear, or we may think they're clear, but they're not. I would tell myself to spend more time getting clarity around what I wanted to accomplish, what success actually looked like, and why that mattered. Being so young, I was just go, ask questions later. And it made me have to undo a lot of things I had previously done. And had I spent more time, actually, today I have these, I call them 3 days, and I go off into the woods or into the mountains for 3 days by myself. Very, very little contact outside my cell phone. And I'm just trying to find clarity. I'll write 20, 30 pages worth of, my long letters, so to speak. And then by the time I leave, it's, 1 or 2 sentences worth of steps. So I would spend more time doing that.
That's awesome.
How long have you been doing that?
About 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Since COVID. Yeah.
Have you gone back and looked at some of your earlier stuff?
That would be kind of cool to go back.
Yeah. It makes you feel, so I keep them all on the same Google Doc. And it's, sometimes I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? And I remember at the time being like, oh, I know exactly what I want.
Yeah.
So I reference them quite a bit, almost weekly.
That's great.
Well,
I love that idea.
I think you're a true visionary in this space and in real estate and a lot to offer other people. So how can people get a hold of you, follow you?
Awesome. So on Instagram, Facebook, my handle is Josh Deshong RE. So Josh Deshong. My best email address is josh@deshong.co. So that's josh@deshong.co.
Awesome.
Perfect.
We'll put all that in the show notes and so people can get a hold of you. And we appreciate this and for spending the time today.
Yes. Thank you so much for adding so much value today. That was awesome.
Awesome. Hey, I appreciate it, guys. Y'all are awesome. Thank y'all so much. And talk to y'all soon.
See ya. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel. Tons of entrepreneurial podcasts are out there. Talking. But Joni and Shawn are living it every single day. Their portfolio now includes many franchises and medium-sized businesses. We talk about the trials and motivators of successfully running a business. Join us again soon for another podcast. But until then, reach out on the website at InsideTheWolfsDen.com, on Facebook at Inside the Wolf's Den, on Instagram at Inside the Wolf Den. We'll see you again soon. This is Inside the Wolf's Den. We'll see you next time.